start with what
Well, I'm good at responding, it stimulates me if we're talking. Okay, I know I'm being
I would like you to start with your prominent food memories.
Well, when I sat down to try to collect my thoughts, there were some major themes that came out. One was the difference of the two homes and the two cultures. So you have one culture that is American Protestant middle class, and you have one culture that's sort of European middle class, but upper middle class, with pretensions or style is very important and stuff like that. And in New York, so there's also the difference of city and suburbs, a difference of religion and culture, and the difference of, well, that's it, I guess.
Now remember, you're talking to someone who knows nothing about you.
Okay, so I was a child of divorced parents at a time when there was nobody who had, I knew no one who had divorced parents. And and I'm choosing to talk about a period which is after we've come back from being abroad for 5 years, 6 years. So this is, let me see, I'll put it into the right context, the right year. I'm about 8 or 9, that would make it, that would make it 1956 or 7 onward. And so I was living with my mother, who was the educated, middle-class, Protestant American from multi-generations, married to her husband, who was my stepfather. And I can give you information that's not going to be put in, right? He worked for the New York Times. These were very well-educated people, but living in suburban New Jersey. I guess parenthetically I should mention that we'd just come back from Argentina, where our lifestyle was really higher upper class, because we were Americans in Argentina. There were servants, there were a lot of people of that kind around, to staff of different kinds, and suddenly we were in middle class America, shopping for lawnmowers at Sears. I mean, it was seeing my mother in Bermuda shorts for the first time in my life, where she'd always worn really elegant clothes. So here I was, like, it didn't really faze me. It was just a different, kids just accept the world the way it's presented. But all along, I'm always going back into fashion New York City. So no matter where I am, I've got this other world that has very little to do with the place I spend most of my time in, and that is with my father, and peripherally, but not insignificantly, my aunt. Oh, since we're talking about food, I'll go back to the differences that I thought of in these two homes. So this is the differences. This is the first theme that I'm talking about. The second theme, just so I don't lose track, is the art of entertaining. So what do kids do when they're at home alone? They open the fridge. And what do you find in the two homes? So in one home, you have a great big fridge that has a freezer on the bottom, which I quite like, and I wish I had again. And it's a big drawer, and it opens up, and the refrigerator part on top. And you open up the fridge, and there is really nothing to snack on. I cannot remember finding anything to snack on. And that's what I discovered in my mother's house, being, I guess, really hungry for a snack, that a can of tuna fish makes a great snack. And to this day, I still have, as a kind of a comfort food, as a last resort kind of thing, opening up a can of tuna and eating it right out of the can, not mixing it into anything. Really enjoying the chunks that come out. It's sort of fall apart like leaves. I like that. There's pleasure in that. That I remember way back from then. And in my mother's house, there was also, she had one ice cream she and her husband liked, and that was butter pecan. And I don't know many kids who like butter pecan, certainly not then. And I didn't like butter pecan. I didn't like nuts at all in those days. Or raisins. Anyway, so that was very discouraging. You don't even like the ice cream, right? I mean, what kind of treat is that? So, to contrast it, in my father's house, which was so different. Anyway, I mean, I've just described the fridge. Well, this fridge was 3 parts, and it was hanging on the wall. I mean, no one had a fridge like that. I still haven't seen them. I've seen them sometimes as low fridges under counters, but I've never seen since then a fridge that was 3 sections wide. 2 was the fridge part, 1 was the freezer, and they hung. I mean, it's fabulous. And starting with the best part, well, they were all good parts, but the freezer had Louis Sherry ice cream. Do you remember the box for Louis Sherry ice cream? It had lavender in it.
Yeah.
I can't quite see it all, but lavender was the color. And there was always coffee ice cream. And to this day, coffee ice cream is the comfort food. There was also vanilla, and it had vanilla bean dots in it, you know? And, what do you call it? Vanilla
beans.
Yeah, but you didn't have beans. It was these little dots, like, you know.
Oh, maybe it was chocolate.
No, it was, I don't know why, but it was like signaling that they were vanilla beans. They probably added them later.
It looked genuine.
Right. Oh, you mean it wasn't genuine? Oh, dear Jen, did you just destroy it for me? I thought it was genuine. What if it was genuine? It's like leaving eggshells in your omelet, right? Okay, well, whatever it wasn't my favorite. The coffee was. Maybe I just liked I got a boost. Maybe I got addicted to coffee then. Who knows? Anyway, but if you open the other doors, you would find, again, things that I saw in no one else's refrigerator. Not even my aunt. There was Damon's plain yogurt. I didn't know anybody else with yogurt. That must have been like the beginning of the yogurt world. And it was cardboard. And I guess it's still cardboard. Maybe it's plastic now. But I remember back when I was still living with my father, so under the age of 17, when the lip underneath the yogurt container got deeper. Nothing changed, not even the price, but it must have been the content, because the thing stayed the same height, but the inside got smaller because the lip underneath got deeper. And I guess that could be the beginning of my jaded understanding of the world a little bit. I mean, oh my God, they can actually change. They're tricking me. The understanding that marketing can be trickery. So plain yogurt, which of course in those days used to add tons of sugar to. And then on the right, in the door of the fridge, there was always a large bar of thick, plain milk chocolate, Lindt, L-I-N-D-T. No one else had that in their house. And the other thing that my father's house had was fresh oranges, which made me think, wow, did my mother not have fresh fruit? I can't remember it. So he had fresh oranges, and he had an orange juice squeezer. And he would make fresh orange juice for me in the morning and would wake me up with the glass and bring it in and put it next to my bed. That was really high-class stuff. And it was, I guess, one of his delights, you know, like people doing their morning rituals or prayers or meditations or whatever, was squeezing the orange juice for the people in the family. He also liked shining the shoes for people. Anyway, so if I was hungry and I would come home from school, I could sit over the garbage can and just peel oranges one after the other and just eat oranges with the juice and the peels just dropping into the garbage. That was my, I guess, pig out food, which was, I think, pretty nice. And in my brother's house, it's cans of tuna fish. I can't remember anything else. So this was very clear in my mind that there was a real distinction. There was all, what I would call it subconscious stuff, because I don't think I was thinking about it really. But it all related to these different cultures that they were presenting me with. So one was one of delight and plenty, and the other was of stuff that I don't know, sort of an ascetic stuff. Or if the stuff was there, it wasn't what I liked, it was what they liked. I mean, I guess one could develop a taste for what it became, but I didn't. That's the important thing.
And they knew it.
I don't think they knew anything.
They didn't know you didn't like it.
Oh, no, they must have known I didn't like it, right. So let me see what I wrote here. Oh, okay. Now what was eaten in the different homes? It's funny how little one remembers. It's so bizarre. Like, I'm trying so hard to remember making meals with my mother. And I remember having to set the table. And I just remember my mother's meals as being really ordinary. And I'm not quite sure why exactly. They made a big deal of Thanksgiving turkey dinners and stuff like that, but it had to do with the serving of it and carving it at the table and sitting next to the turkey so you could nibble at the little pieces left behind. But the vegetables were like awful. I mean, no, that's my personal judgment. They were overcooked boiled vegetables. Well, nothing like that was done to the vegetables in my father's world, and I include my aunt in there. And then later when when I went to live with him at age 12 or 13, he married a woman quite young, but she was a very good cook. Also, her background was Swedish. Nothing that was ever eaten in the homes that I lived in New York was overcooked boiled vegetables. Everything was tossed and light and tasty and buttery and whatever. So there was a delight in eating in one house that I just did not experience in the other, I guess. My mother made things like tomato aspic. I mean, she was really straight down American-style stuff. And the other family was eating things that... So I had a choice way from the beginning of two styles of doing anything. And setting the table was a little different, not too different, but table manners was something I wanted to come to. And also milk. Milk was served at my mother's home. My stepfather, and my mother would drink big, tall glasses of milk with any meal, no matter what was being served. You wouldn't do this if you had company. But if it's a family meal, they would be, that's very interesting. If it's company, you would have water and maybe wine. But at home, if it's just family, everybody was drinking a big, tall glass of milk. No European drinks a glass of milk after the age of 6. Or I don't know, something like that. And my father used to think it's very odd, and clearly I must have altered my style, because you served water or wine, maybe juice. I had prune juice in the house, I remember. I liked the taste. It was velvety.
Which one was that?
What?
Which parent?
My father.
Oh.
You would just, no European drinks milk with their meals. So that was a big difference. So you have to imagine, as a child, you walk from one place to another, you're setting the table slightly differently, you're putting out different glasses, you're whatever you're helping, you need to know that they're different styles. Eating at the table was the same thing. You have different table manners if you're a European or an American. In my mother's home, you would spear the item with your left hand and the fork, and you would cut with the knife, and then you were expected to put the knife down and switch or something, the fork into the other hand. Now all of these are childhood memories, so if I didn't do it very well, there was no repercussions. So I didn't continue with that style into my adulthood. So I'm describing something that I know, don't remember how well I did that, but that's what you were sort of expected to do. And if your hand was not in use on top of the table, you were expected to put it in your lap. My aunt would say, "What are the Americans doing with their hands in their laps while they're eating?" And the form was, I'm hitting the table now, someplace around the wrist or slightly up the arm. That's where your hands were on the edges of the table. You're eating, after all. You're not holding onto your napkin or whatever you're doing under the table. I remember that. I mean, this is such a vivid memory. It's because it's slightly off color or suggestive. But you ate, you cut with the same way, but you lifted the fork with your left hand to your mouth. Why in the world would you switch to your right hand? You have it already in your left hand, which you can't eat with your left hand. Anyway, there was more gusto and involvement and joy, it seemed to me. That's the way I interpreted it. In eating. It just didn't seem, eating in my father's world was more relaxed. In my mother's world it was stilted with rules that seemed to get in the way of just enjoying the food. It just occurs to me that it's nothing to do with my food habits, but it may have something to do with the whole picture, but I've never really put much thought to it, is that in my mother's household, before dinner, people have had 1 or 2 martinis already. And not in my father's world at all.
Even when they're drinking milk with you, they've had martinis, then they go eat?
I have no idea. I have no.
What?
I really don't remember exactly how it worked. They wouldn't have been drinking the martinis at the table. They might be drinking a martini while they're preparing the meal. There seemed to be, you come home and you're allowed to have a drink.
But I'm just putting this together. It is the same meal that with the food you might be drinking milk. Prior to the meal you might be drinking a martini. So that's a package deal?
I don't.
Or is that a company deal? That's what I'm trying to get at. Because earlier you made that distinction between the everyday meals and the...
Oh, no, everyday meal. This is an everyday meal.
Everyday meal, okay.
Yes. No, you're coming home and you're getting... No, my mother was alcoholic. And besides, they were big drinkers, these two. He died at 52. She would deny, but most alcoholics, I think, do. If you come to visit somebody for the weekend and you bring your scotch, it's probably because you're afraid there's not going to be enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you bring your marijuana, you bring your alcohol, you bring your cigarette.
Necessities,
you bring
your medicine.
You bring your medicine.
Okay.
Right. So I just thought of that because I said, maybe if you've got already 1 or 2 drinks down you, the meal feels different to you. I don't know. I have never thought of that before.
I bet it does.
Well, my father had...
vegetables,
Hey! Right. Well, finally, I resurrected my mother's Brussels sprouts. I hated Brussels sprouts. They were like, I just hated them. They were boiled and chalky. I don't know what. I'm not quite sure how to describe boiled Brussels sprouts, but they didn't taste like much that I liked. And now I cut them in half and stir fry them. And they're just wonderful. So, somebody who drinks too much loses their taste buds. Now, my father liked wine, but I think it just started and went with the meal. It didn't go on after the meal. He was not an alcoholic. And he enjoyed his chocolate and his wine and whatever. Right. So, So now I wanted to talk about parties and the art of entertainment. One very important thing. I've often used this as an example about how kids talk about divorce. I said, well, there's one advantage to divorce. A kid learns early on that there are 2 legitimate ways of doing something. And if there are two legitimate ways of doing something, it opens up the possibility of three and multitudes. So it's a more open-minded way of seeing the world, whereas most people leave home at college age and for the first time discover that people don't eat such and such that way, or they think that white bread is terrible, or they don't put milk in their scrambled eggs, or whatever it is, you know, that there are these very firmly held positions that are finally colliding someplace in the cafeteria of the college or someplace. And for a kid who grows up in two worlds that are so different, it's very clear that there are multiple ways of doing things. And I use the example of how to make an omelet or a scrambled egg. How you cook eggs really says a lot about, it's like a microcosm of the cultural differences. So my mother's eggs were made this way. She would scramble the eggs in a bowl. She might have put salt and pepper in them, but she would add milk and then whip them up real well, and then probably there was butter in the saucepan. That's one of these, right?
Okay.
Right? Not something flat, right? Right. And she would put the, we have two going, in case one's a breath. Okay. And then she would put this egg into there and mush it around and keep stirring it with something, a spoon or something. And so it would have this fluffiness and little balls fluffiness that is like, cumulus clouds or something. And then that would be served like that. And those are perfectly fine. And then in my aunt, because I don't remember my father ever making scrambled eggs, my stepmother would have done it the same way, I think, but I remember my aunt doing it. There was a frying pan, and the butter would be hot and sizzling, and the eggs had been tossed, mixed, but no milk added, maybe salt and pepper again, and they would be thrown into the frying pan, moved around the frying pan very quickly. We're not making omelets now, we're making scrambled eggs, right? And the fork, with the back of the fork on the frying pan, would move things around, and it would not be cooked until it was hard. It wouldn't be undercooked, there wouldn't be liquid egg in there, but it was just right. And then quickly slipped onto a plate. Well, those are the eggs I prefer today. And to this day, when I make eggs, I really want people sitting at the table, so I don't have to, as long as I'm making them perfectly quickly, then they should be there, and they're not going to sit on the plate. So these are like really ingrained things that are part of who I am. I mean, not my politics or anything, but part of some cultural stuff of who I am. So the scrambling of eggs, I think, is really an important feature on how you can distinguish where people come from. And the eggs are like ubiquitous. How do people cook eggs? As I recall, both homes would sometimes make œuf à la coque, medium boiled or soft boiled egg. And that was always tricky, you got to get it right. I didn't like soft boiled, medium boiled, but both homes had that, I remember. And we had little cups for those too.
That was the same number.
It wasn't dominant in my mother's house, but it was, my father would have one that way. And there was I would make the toast and cut the toast into little sticks, and then I would dip the bread into the egg, especially if it was too soft. So the art of entertaining, now, and that's the second theme. Parties, going out, and such. So I tried hard to remember going out with my mother, and I can't think of anything except really quite ordinary things, and not too often. Maybe a diner? It was not something we did, I guess. And my father, I remember going out to restaurants, but one time that sticks in my mind is when he and I alone went out. I was a tag-along when he had business associates or something he would invite. And so I learned how to eat in restaurants quite early. But one time he took me out alone, and so this was not to impress some customer at some fancy New York restaurant. He took me to Longchamps, which is long champs, but it's Longchamps if you speak French. And so this was his idea where you would take just a child. And I remember being very disappointed because it's not fancy. It wasn't. I don't quite know how ordinary it was.
It was a chain.
It was a chain of some kind. And I wasn't sure what to order, so I ordered, he suggested I ordered a Salisbury steak. And it turned out to be a just huge hamburger, which was, like, disappointing to me. I guess I felt like a child, which I was, but... he also took me to Rumpelmayer's. Now, that's where you take a child. I was trying to remember the name of it the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you spell it.
I can remember.
It was on Central Park South, past the plaza, someplace along there, 1 or 2 blocks in, maybe even on the same block at the top. And I think it might still be there. And it was this kind of place, it was an ice cream joint, but it's a hell of a joint. Everything was shiny brass and shiny, not silver, but what would that be, metal. And chrome, right, and glass with chocolates and gorgeous things behind glass, and further back you could sit down and have some ice cream sundae or just ice cream, and of course I would just order coffee, but I don't think there was much choice those days. I think it was strawberry
Coffee, ice cream.
Yeah. I think you had chocolate, vanilla, coffee, and strawberry. I think that was about it, don't you think? In those days? No. There was more? In the 50s, late 50s? What was there? Well, there was peanut butter pecan, right?
Pecan, butter brickle, do you remember that?
No.
Chocolate swirl, there were all kinds.
My father was a purist. Chocolate swirl was...
They would have had it.
Yeah, they would have had it.
They would have had it. Well, you may not have had it.
I know, right. You're right. They had that. And ice cream in those days did come in these big... They still come in those big blocks. Isn't it funny how certain things get a certain form for serving them and they just stay there?
Bricks, we call them.
Bricks, right. Right. But Louis Sherry didn't have them in bricks.
Hand-packed.
Hand-packed. And so you notice that Ben & Jerry's doesn't sell them in bricks. So
It's surpassed later.
It's a I don't know, I think it's a class thing.
Well, I think the bricks were like factory produced, sort of, and so then they had to go to the custom to charge you more. It always cost more. You could always get hand-packed. It's our ice cream stores, if you could get the brick or the hand-packed.
Well, what difference does it make?
specify.
You have all this air, you'd probably get less ice cream.
Yes, but if you don't hand-packed, you could get it. I think here was the difference. You had a much wider variety of the hand-packed. The bricks were only certain standard, most popular ice cream flavors. And if you wanted some of the less popular ones, you could only get a hand-picked. Because it was just for cones.
My perception of it had to do with these two homes. See? So it just got understood in that language. And I think it has a lot to do with how I understood my father and my mother. All of this stuff. The way they entertained, too, the way they... everything. Anyway, so... entertaining, so that was going out. And staying in, my father had lots of parties. They were business parties. And I remember spending many times being asked to help and sitting at that little drawer that comes out of counters. I don't know if we don't see them too much anymore for cutting bread.
Oh, yeah.
And having the pumpernickel that comes in these squares that are like 5 by 5 or something, 4 by 4. And, how did we do this? I think we cut them first. And I was instructed, cut it twice, so they would then come in little squares. Later I think they started serving them that way, because people obviously were cutting them in quarters all the time. And I would assemble in assembly line fashion, little canapes that were with sour cream and a blob of caviar on top. And another set would be, I would open this pâté de foie gras, and it still comes in these containers that are not square. For some reason, they're shaped like the side views like that. Mm-hmm. So, how do we call that? Trapezoidal, slightly rounded trapezoidal from the side view. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it's chosen to be packed like that. And it's cardboard on the side, on the long side, and metal at the ends. And I would take this apart, and the trick was that in the middle here, there'd be a little stick of truffle that would go through the whole thing. And so if you sliced it through nicely, you would get a little circle of truffle in the middle of your slice of pâté. And I clearly was instructed specifically how to do this because I can describe it to you right now. And so it fit very nicely on one of those squares and we're talking black pumpernickel or rye. Mm-hmm. So remember we're talking, I forgot to mention, my mother's house was white bread, Wonder bread. And this house was pumpernickel and rye.
Wonder bread for canopies?
She didn't make canopies. What did she make for canopies? I have no idea. She didn't have that many parties. Mm-hmm. The parties were back in Argentina, and there were servants making them. In New Jersey, there were not parties. Mm-hmm. I don't remember parties. And so pâté was yeah?
I didn't know if you had finished describing the
pâté. I'm trying to think if there was one other item I can remember those two. And the pâté would have gone straight onto the bread. Oh, there would be lox. So there would be cream cheese and a piece of lox. So those were, and you didn't have food like that in my mother's house at all. No pâté, no lox. I mean, you'd have peanut butter and jelly at her house if you had. And I didn't like peanut butter. So, none of the foods I've just described would have been served at her house at all.
Jenny, can I interrupt you for one moment? I have Steve from Copycat. He's got a quick question. Is that all right? If you like that.
So I was part of the party, in a way. I mean, I could run around with the people afterwards, and I could help serve. And there were parties. There were just a lot of parties, and my aunt had a lot of parties. I was going to show you a picture. And the picture I'll show you is in front of this actual piece of furniture. And I didn't live with her, but she had me setting tables and guiding my understanding, my aesthetics, by saying, no, not like that, where you think you've done it just fine, and suddenly this scary aunt says to you that you did it wrong, oh my God. So you watch, and it's really fine-tuning. I mean, not always kindly fine-tuning, but she's fine-tuning a certain aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And I now teach classes in calligraphy and in embroidery, and my students tell me I'm a wonderful teacher. But I tell them about the calligraphy that it's really fine-tuning your own understanding. So I'm showing you how precise, how nitsy you have to be about getting a form right. And then the way you reinforce it is by going back over a line you've done and circling the ones that are good. And I realized that that's, my father made me write thank you notes, and it wasn't just some cranked out little stupid note from a kid. It had to be nicely written. Mm-hmm. The sentences had to make sense. It had to be amplified and not just like, thank you very much for your blah blah. And it had to fit on the paper properly. And I wrote it over and over again until it was right. Well, these are how you refine somebody's sense of aesthetics, how you teach aesthetics. And so, she sort of terrified me. You took it all in, including eventually the stuff you said, this is de trop, this is too much, who the hell cares about that? But you could understand her aesthetic version of it. Mm-hmm. Like she gave me this table. Well, I loved the table, but once I had it, I realized this is a real pain to keep clean. And pulling out a piece of glass didn't work because of all its different levels. And I said, well, this is who I am. I don't have the servants to do the stuff that she needed to do. So, I don't know, maybe that's all I've got in terms of notes, but I'd be happy to be stimulated to remember other things.
Well, I might just ask you, like, what were some of your favorite foods, or what, do you remember any very special meals that stick out in your mind, you know, a particular meal, or a favorite recurring meal, or, treat, or,
I
might
remember-
have touched on something.
I remember one that I didn't like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good too.
and that I became enamored of later on.
Okay.
And it's what in America is called eggplant caviar. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No?
I think it's an awful name, but in fact it has a very, it looks like what it's, it's made. Whereas in fact, most of us who live in the East Coast will recognize it as baba ganoush.
Okay.
So you roast an eggplant, and if you can, you roast it over an open flame so it gets that nice roasted, smoky thing. And then you scrape out the inside of the eggplant, and you chop it all up, and you mix it with certain ingredients. So this is very Middle Eastern. So my grandmother used to make this, and she's from Russia, moved to France. So where did she get this from? And it was very creamy the way my grandmother and my aunt made it. My grandmother was always part of the scene at my aunt's country place, which is where I would have bumped into my aunt more often than not. And they would roast the eggplant outside,